Now we'll have the invocation song by our students.
शारदे माँ, हे शारदे माँ, अज्ञानता से हमें तार दे माँ। हे शारदे माँ, हे शारदे माँ, अज्ञानता से हमें तार दे माँ। हे शारदे माँ, संगीत तुझसे हर शब्द तेरा, गीत तुझसे तू स्वयं की देवी, संगीत तुझसे हर शब्द तेरा, गीत तुझसे। हम हैं अकेले, हम हैं अधूरे, हम हैं अकेले, हम हैं अधूरे, तेरी शरण में हमें प्यार दे माँ, ए शारदे माँ। दुनिया ने समझी, दुनिया ने जानी, वेदों की भाषा, पुराणों की वाणी। दुनिया ने समझी, दुनिया ने जानी, वेदों की भाषा, पुराणों की वाणी। हम भी तो समझे, हम भी तो जाने, हम भी तो समझे, हम भी तो जाने, विद्या का हमको अधिकार दे माँ, हे शारदे माँ। तू कमल पे विराजे, हाथों में वीणा, सर के साजे। तू श्वेत वल्ली कमल पे विराजे, हाथों में वीणा, मुकुट सर पे साजे। मन से हमारे मिटा दे अंधेरे, मन से हमारे मिटा दे अंधेरे। हमको उजालों का संसार दे माँ, ए शारदे माँ, ए शारदे माँ, ए शारदे माँ।
Presentation of bouquets to the chief guest, Shri N.K. Singh, and President IGIDR, Shri Shaktikanta Das.
It's my privilege to declare the convocation open.
Director and Vice Chancellor, Dr. Basanta K. Pradhan, will deliver the welcome speech and report.
Governor of Reserve Bank of India, President of our institute, P. Shaktikanta Das, Chief Guest of the ceremony today, P. N.K. Singh, Dean of Academic Affairs, Dr. Srijit Mishra, Registrar, Dr. Jaymohan Pandit, distinguished guests, esteemed members of the faculty, staff, and dear students, graduating students and their parents, and other participants. A very good morning to all of you. I extend a warm welcome to Governor Sri Shaktikanta Das and Chief Guest Sri N.K. Singh and all of you to this 18th convocation of the Indira Gandhi Institute of Development Research, which we fondly call IGIDR. My congratulations to all the graduating students who are being awarded their degrees today. I am very happy to inform that IGIDR has completed 35 years. As you are aware, the institute was established by RBI in 1987. I am grateful to our chief guest, Sri N.K. Singh, for accepting our invitation to deliver this year's convocation address. It is my pleasure and privilege to introduce him. He, along with Professor Lawrence Summers, has been recently appointed as the co-convener of G20 Expert Group on Reforms of Multilateral Development Banks, popularly known as MDBs. He is the president of the Institute of Economic Growth, Delhi, and the chairman of the 15th Finance Commission of India. Previously, he presided as the chairman of the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Review Committee. He was a member of the upper house of the parliament, the Rajya Sabha, from 2008 to 2014. He was expenditure secretary and revenue secretary to the Government of India, member of the Planning Commission, and Secretary to the Prime Minister of India. Among other senior leadership roles, his service as the First Minister, Economic and Commercial at the Embassy in Japan, at the Indian Embassy in Japan, and his further contributions to the International Economic Order were recognized by the Emperor of Japan with the award of the Order of the Rising Sun, Gold and Silver in 2016. Mr. Singh is also a notable author of several books, such as his autobiography, Portraits of Power, his more recent book, Recalibrate, and the earlier one, Not by Reason Alone, The Politics of Change. In short, Mr. N.K. Singh is a prominent Indian economist, academician, author, and policymaker. On behalf of the Board of Management and the entire campus community, I extend Sri N.K. Singh a very warm welcome to the Institute and to this auspicious event. It is my honor and privilege to welcome the Reserve Bank of India Governor and our President, Sri Shaktikant Das, and thank him for presiding over this solemn ceremony. The campus community, particularly the students, were looking forward to his visit. As many of you know, the IGIDR was established in 1987 by RBI. It became a deemed to be university in 1995. Over the years, the institute has established itself as one of the most well-known quality institutes in the country and even abroad. In this context, as always, we acknowledge the efforts of our esteemed faculty, students, and staff, and the continuous encouragement and support of the Reserve Bank of India and its successive governors. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Sri Shaktikant Das and the Board of Governors for their valued support and continuous guidance. Our vision is to continue with this excellence in teaching and research and take the institute to the next level. Let us turn to teaching. IGIDR has a strong teaching program traversing an assortment of subjects, both in theory and in application. As a deemed to be university, it offers MSc in economics and an integrated PhD program in development studies. The IGIDR is one of the few centers of higher learning in India that focuses on teaching and research from an interdisciplinary perspective. It encourages students from across disciplines like economics, mathematics, statistics, and even science and engineering. The unique feature of the academic program of IGIDR is its emphasis on combining theory with hands-on experience. The institute, through its rigorous curriculum of global standards, prepares students for careers par excellence in academia, in business, and in policy. The research agenda in IGIDR is guided both by the contemporary policy concerns as well as by the cutting-edge publications in top-ranking professional journals. The IGIDR research publications is ranked #1 by the Scopus Index for last many years among the economics departments and institutes in the country. As previously, the progress on publications, projects, conferences, and capacity building programs this year has been adequate. The IGIDR faculty has also received recognition on several fronts, as reflected in significant assignments and in receiving various awards. Faculty publish research papers in national and international journals of standing. Policy advice to the government continue. The faculty at the institute edits 2 major economics journals. One, the Journal of Quantitative Economics, which is the official journal of the Indian Econometric Society. And 2, Macroeconomics and Finance in Emerging Market Economy. The IGIDR faculty has served on or serving in several important government committees, such as the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council, Monetary Policy Committee, and other significant committees of the RBI, the National Statistical Commission, the Advisory Committee on National Account Statistics, committees of the international organizations like International Food Policy Research Institute and the International Economic Association, just to name a few. Our flagship publication is the biennial Indian development reports. These reports provide an independent assessment of the status of the Indian economy, including current problems, issues, and policies. The publication of Indian development reports has helped to bring the research of IGIDR scholars to wider audience. In the latest India Development Report 2022, besides the usual macro and other chapters, we have a special theme on skill and employment. Institute has undertaken many outreach and capacity building activities. The Institute organized its 5th conversation on research, that is the IGIDR PhD colloquium, during November 1 to 4, 2022. The colloquium is part of Institute's outreach activity organized every year with 2 objectives. 1, fostering excellence in research by stimulating interactions among young researchers. And 2, enhancing capacity building across institutions in the country. Around 27 research students from 23 different institutions spread across the country presented their work in the last colloquium. The other outreach programs such as visiting students program for master students, visiting scholars program for PhD students, and postdoctoral program for those who have completed their PhDs. One student has recently joined as our postdoctoral program for a period of 1 year. 4 students have joined the visiting scholars program for a period of 3 months, and 11 students have been selected to join the visiting students program, which will be held during 30th May to 15th July this year. Residential training program on applied econometrics was held for 19 officers from RBI at the institute during March 6 to 17 this year. The program was highly appreciated by the training. Fully residential training program for 43rd and 44th batch of Indian Statistical Service professionals on current economic issues and sessions on energy and environment was organized by IGIDR during November 21st to 25th, 2022, with 59 participants. The biennial conference on development titled Sustainable Development Goals, Multiple Global Shocks, Progress, Challenges, and Way Forward was held from 21st to 23rd December 2022. The conference was highly successful in terms of number of submissions received for the presentation. The highlights of the conference were the inaugural address delivered by Sri Suman Beri, Vice Chairman of Niti Aayog, and the keynote addresses were delivered, among others, by K. Munshi of Yale University and Professor Kaushik Basu of Cornell University. A meeting was held with members from European System of Central Banks on November 30, 2022. The main purpose of their visit was to understand more about Indian economy and its future course. The chair of India Export Network of International Relations Committee of European System of Central Bank, Risto Herrera, was one of our guests. This meeting was just start of the potential future collaborations with Bank of Finland, Bank of Italy, Bank of France, Bank of Slovakia, and the European System of Central Banks. Let me turn to number of degrees awarded. Since its inception in the late 1980s, IGIDR has awarded 134 PhD, 126 MPhil, and 394 MSc degrees. At this convocation, 4 PhD, 6 MPhil, and 38 MSc degrees are being awarded. I may add that the last 5 years, average of MSc and PhD female students are 52% and 67% respectively. I repeat, about 67% of students are females for PhD. I'm happy to inform that our students have been remarkably successful in getting placements both from academic institutions in India and abroad, as well as from leading corporates, government organizations, and financial institutions. The number of students placed during academic year 2022-23 is 18 for final placement and 25 for summer internships. There is already a large and vibrant network of IGIDR alumni in academic institutions and the corporate sector. The alumni are well placed in the faculties of several institutions of repute, such as IIMs, IIT, JNU, Madras School of Economics, NCIR, NIPFE, Delhi School of Economics, IG, and some of the emerging private universities in the country. They also occupy top managerial positions in multinational enterprises in India and abroad. I thank the alumni for being wonderful ambassadors for their alma mater. We have a few international student programs at the institute. 7 students of the Erasmus Mundus European Masters programs on law and economics attended the 3rd semester courses at IGIDR during April 15 to September 16, 2022. They are provided accommodation on the campus during this period. This is part of IGIDR's collaboration with European Union as a partner in Erasmus Mundus program and universities therein, and lies within the purview of collaborative agreement between India and EU on higher education. This program is run by a consortium of European universities and IGIDR. 4 students from University of Beirut attended the coursework in August to December 2022 semester at IGIDR. 5 students from RIJE universities attended the coursework in the August-December 2022 semester at IGIDR. This is part of IGIDR's collaboration with RIJE University, Amsterdam. Let me conclude by congratulating the students who will be awarded their degrees at this convocation. And I wish them all success in their future endeavors. Once again, I warmly welcome all of you to this auspicious ceremony. Thank you very much. Thank you.
We will now have the conferment of degrees by the President IGIDR and presentation of Chancellor's Gold Medal by the Chief Guest. Dean Academic Affairs will announce the names of the graduating students.
PhD degrees, Prashant Parab. Vasavi Bhatt. Tannu Gupta. Hardeep Singh. MPhil degrees, Sritama Ray. Sandipan Saha. Boluram Mogot. Vijay Ratan Ghosh. Two students are being conferred the MPhil degree in absentia. They are Rachna Das and Madhuparna Ganguly. The MSc degrees, Adrish Majumdar. Aman Rathore. Amir Rajesh Gandhi. अनन्या श्रीवास्तव, अनुभव हर्ष, अपर्णा सिंघाड़िया, अश्वनी शर्मा, अविक गुप्ता, चित्रलेखा सुधाकर गायकवाड़, गौरिमा नहाटा, गुणिका गंभीर, हरिप्रकाश, कनिष्क खुराना, मानस दीक्षित, मानसी, मोनालिसा पौली, नीलेश कुमार, पॉल बाबू, प्रत्याशा प्रियदर्शी पटेल, पूजा महातो, रितिका पॉल, रोशनी रॉय, सागर कुमार, संजना मोहन, Saurav Kumar. Dhruvam Das. Christy Singh. Swarupjit Palit. Ujjwal. Vishal Vihari. Yamini Jham. The MSc degrees are being conferred in absentia to Abhishek Kumar, roll number 20 MSc STU 20. Again, Abhishek Kumar, 20 MSc STU 38. Both two students have the same names. Ashutosh Taluja, Debojit Roy, Kanika Bagri, Sagar Kumar Mahato, and Drishan Banerjee. Drishan Banerjee is being also conferred the Chancellor's Gold Medal for the best performing student in the MSc Economics program during 2022. And this gold medal also may be given by, it is in absentia, so the guest, we just show it to the audience. Request the guest, the honorable guest, PNK Singh. So, gold medal. And thank you all. This graduating batch is also the COVID batch, 2022 batch.
We'll now have the convocation address by the chief guest.
Good afternoon. At the very outset, let me express my deep gratitude to the President of the Indira Gandhi Institute of Development Research, Honorable Shri Shaktikant Das, the Governor of the Reserve Bank of India, for this privilege and opportunity for me to speak at the 18th Convocation Address. I'm equally grateful to Dr. Basant Pradhan, Director and Vice Chancellor, for enabling me to revisit this leading center of academic research and excellence. I compliment the Dean of Academic Affairs, Dr. Sirijit Mishra, the Registrar, Dr. Jai Mohan Pandit, the faculty members, and the students who have received the degree today. I have come to this institution earlier. Over the years, it has continued to remain an important and relevant center of research institution in India. Let me convey, therefore, my warmest appreciation and the hope that it would continue to be a distinguished center with high academic track record. I've been asked today to speak on the broad subject of reforming multilateral development banks and the 21st century agenda. What is multilateralism? The most common definition of multilateralism is where three or more actors are engaged in voluntary and institutionalized cooperation governed by norms and regulations with rules which equally apply to all. In this philosophy is embedded in the United Nations model of universal membership, which is fundamental to multilateralism. It is also embedded in the belief that multilateral institutions are better equipped to enhance cooperation for economic growth and productivity by garnering investments, both public and private. Nevertheless, given the somewhat fractured geopolitics, the global multilateral system of governance is encountering renewed challenges. In the oldest arrangement, it was unilateralism, as we all know, which was then somewhat extended to bilateralism, then to regionalism, particularly preferential agreements among a subset of nations, and finally, of course, multilateralism. The question which is relevant today is whether plurilateralism is the next stage of evolution for the arrangements of international cooperation. Plurilateralism is premised to bring like-minded partnership in many sectors as possible without being at the mercy or being the first to be admitted as new members in the earlier organization. Experience tells us that in any holistic classification between different forms of cooperative arrangements would be bereft of reality and indeed could be counterproductive. Plurilateral arrangements can coexist with other forms of cooperation like regional, bilateral, and of course multilateral. Therefore, multilateralism would be a spectrum in which different forms of cooperative framework and different kinds of arrangements can coexist depending on the preference of the stakeholders. Coming back to the broad theme of multilateral development banks, we are aware that at the end of the Second World War, delegates of 44 countries met in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, for the United Nations Monetary and Financial Conference in 1944 to come to a series of rules and regulations on international cooperation. These led to the emergence of rule-based international economic architecture. The above conference resulted in the formation of two institutions, the International Monetary Fund and the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, the IBRD. The IMF was charged principally with the responsibility of maintenance of fixed exchange rates centered around US dollar and gold. According to Article 1 of the IMF, Articles of Agreement, the purpose is to promote international monetary cooperation, facilitate expansion and balance growth of international trade, promote exchange stability, assist in the establishment of a multilateral system of payments, give confidence to members, and to shorten the duration and lessen the degree of disequilibrium in international balance of payments. Primary article, therefore, of the International Monetary Fund. The IBRD, now known as the World Bank Group, was responsible for providing financial assistance for reconstruction after the Second World War for economic development of the less developed countries. In the final act of the United Nations Monetary and Financial Conference in 1944, it was agreed that the bank would assist capital through normal channels at reasonable rates of interest for long periods for projects to raise the productivity of the borrowing country. And this article was crafted based on an agreement that the bank should guarantee loans made by others. As of date, the World Bank Group comprises the following organizations: the IBRD, which lends to low and middle income countries; IDA, that lends to low income countries; IFC, which lends to private sector, and MEGA, which encourages private companies to invest in foreign companies. While the World Bank Group is the oldest and the largest multilateral bank, over the years, several other MDBs and regional development banks have emerged. Today, surprisingly, there are as many as 15 to 16 prominent MDBs and RDBs existing in one common spectrum. The original mission of the World Bank represented the twin objectives of ending extreme poverty by 2030 and promoting shared prosperity by boosting the income of the poorest 40 countries in each country. However, the World Bank and the world today is beset with a multiplicity of problems. First and foremost, the persistence of extreme poverty, with 23 countries in Africa not even reaching the minimum 2.15 per day, a far cry from $6.85. Far from shared prosperity, income divides in the region and within the country have increased. Similar, the debt situation is serious. The public external debt of emerging markets and developing countries is large and it is rising. Nearly 1/5 is from the MDBs. Developing countries' external debt, for instance, increased by over 175% between 2008 to 3.9 trillion in 2021. A sizable proportion of the debt, 57, is from private bondholders and creditors, followed by MDBs owning 21% of the debt, Paris Club 6%, and China 4%. Since 2020, the world has witnessed declines in growth, increases in poverty, and reversal in human development. The number of people in extreme poverty increased for the first time in decades by 11%, and more than 3 billion people still live below the $6.85 a day. Shared prosperity shows similar trends as measured by the prosperity gap. About 349 million people across 79 countries are experiencing food insecurity. There is need to prioritize challenges related to global public goods such as climate action, energy transition, future pandemics that impinge on growth and development. Many countries are off track on sustainable development goals. Countries need financing to achieve sustainable development goals and combat transboundary challenges. These are not mutually exclusive goals, and the MDBs in the current state cannot meet these huge demands on their finances. Prioritizing global public goods will need huge additional financing, both from public and private sector. There is need for creating an incentive structure and would bring about changes in the current operating procedures and models of the multilateral development banks. International Development Finance, IDA, remains still short of the targets necessary to meet IDA obligations. It is obvious that all development partners need to ramp up and deploy additional finance, enable blending finances with private capital, and secure greater levels of concessionality to incentivize work on global challenges without crowding out other development priorities which remain there. So the question really is, are the multilateral institutions equipped to take on these new challenges? It is widely believed that the current global financial order is no longer fit for the purposes of dealing with the unprecedented and multilateral challenges facing the global community. To make a meaningful dent in poverty, achieve shared prosperity, and fund global public goods, the MDBs must be relevant to growth and development needs of all developing countries, including middle-income countries. There is need for expansion of the mandate of the MDBs in the context of new transboundary challenges, matching the ability of MDBs to finance these larger goals without reducing development financing. Given the high levels of financing needs of both low-income and middle-income countries, and the increased debt vulnerabilities, induced by COVID-19 health crisis, a holistic approach for reforming the multilateral development banks by the international community is necessary. Several important systemic issues need to be addressed. How can the incentive structure of the MDBs be strengthened for provision of greater global public goods? How can the operating model of the multilateral development banks be strengthened that it holds on to the MDBs accountable for the results, particularly for the global public goods? How much funding is needed? Emerging markets and developing countries other than China will need to spend around $1 trillion per annum by 2025 and $2.4 trillion per year by 2030 on the basis of the analysis made by the World Bank very recently in the report submitted to the spring meeting of IMF and World Bank. In terms of external finance, therefore, there is need for a breakthrough to mobilize $1 trillion per year to external finance, which will be needed by 2030 for emerging markets. The World Bank Group also estimates that the total average annual public and private spending needs to address the global challenges of climate change, conflict, pandemics, and these would be in the tune of $2.4 trillion for developing countries between 2023 and 2030. This, of course, embeds in it the need for global public goods. Should the twin objectives be broadened enough, namely the twin objectives of ending extreme poverty and the objective of shared prosperity, be broadened to include the new challenges of global warming and climate change? The recent meeting in Washington sought to do this by somewhat redefining the purpose. On 30th March 2023, it sought to somewhat recalibrate and redefine through the Development Committee on the new purposes intended. So the 21st century challenges on resources, operating models, governance structure, and the mission must include transboundary challenges. Over the years, various G20 presidencies have sought to address the reform of the multilateral financial system. For instance, the German presidency in 2013, the Italian presidency in 2021, resulting in the outcome of the Bali Declaration. Against this backdrop, the G20 under the Indian presidency has set up an independent expert group, which I am co-chairing along with Lawrence Summers for the purposes of this being called the Independent Expert Group. A roadmap for an updated MDB ecosystem for 21st century, touching upon various aspects of the MDB evolution and an evaluation of the various estimates regarding the scale of funding required from the MDBs are part of the terms of reference, apart from seeking mechanisms for a better coordination among the multilateral development banks itself, whose number, as I told you, are close to now between 14 to 16. For fulfilling this purpose, this independent expert group needs to address some of the following issues. Can the lending capability of the MDB system be extended? How can one balance the new challenges with the optimization of the MDB's balance sheet? What can be done to mobilize much greater private capital flows? And how can the MDB system be reformed? These are complex questions. The multilateral development banks are infervent. We must recognize that each multilateral development bank have their own shareholding and their own governance structure. Therefore, while it is important to lay down a coherent set of rules and regulations on important functions, we need to tread carefully to ensure that their autonomy is not significantly impinged. And yet institutional arrangements would need to be put in place, which would entail a coherence in the functioning of these multilateral institutions to optimize their inherent lending capability, and more important, to contribute to global good and, broadly speaking, address three important functions: incentivizing private capital, de-risking investments, providing greater concessional finance. In all this, of course, technology that is provided by the multilateral institutions can be used to support developing countries to help them strengthen the economic management and reduce poverty. What do I expect to come out of this expert committee? This is not a research committee. I can assure some skeptics, we intend to come out with a set of recommendations which are tangible and which can make a decisive difference. We certainly intend to give suggestions on the optimization of the balance sheet strength of the World Bank. We certainly intend to be cognizant of the huge leveraging capability of multilateral institutions. For example, the World Bank, the amount of capitalization so far is a very small amount of $20 billion, against which it has already lent over $800 billion. To increase the lending capability, the need for recapitalization in some form or the other is now an inescapable necessity. It is curious that the IBRD, as an institution, does not have any built-in replenishment cycle. This deserves serious consideration. Similarly, other multilateral institutions who have effectively leveraged their modest capital also need to enhance their ability to recapitalization. We are therefore examining how, given this ability of theirs, the lending capability can be substantially enhanced to meet the challenges that lie ahead and the challenge of global public goods, the original mission, along with eliminating poverty and shared prosperity. It is imperative to leverage clearly more of the MDB's inherent resources to optimize their balance sheets for higher lending. The present structure allows us to look at various methods and options for doing so. For example, evaluating through simulations that what can optimize MDB's leveraging capability with marginally higher levels of risk. The MDB financing targets set by different committees will require mobilization of private capital. However, for that, this committee has to evaluate the implications that it might have on its operating models. And operating models not only for the IBRD, but for other multilateral development banks. Broad and deep changes are necessary and will require significantly strengthened performance, such as, for instance, on the whole idea of mobilizing private capitals, on the issue, for instance, of various forms in which risk mitigation can assist in garnering greater private capital. Risk mitigation, for instance, illustratively, on guarantees of various kinds, realistic rates of return, and risk management in the whole spectrum of possibilities. At the same time, funding perhaps a way in which the compelling needs of global public goods, transboundary challenges, the vulnerabilities arising from climate change can be suitably and credibly financed. We want to make sure that the emerging transboundary challenges of global public goods do not come at the expense of resources available to address the original twin objectives, which is to end extreme poverty and enhance shared prosperity. The world is fervent. We need to be innovative. We need to ensure that the multilateral development banks rise up to the old challenges and the new challenges to make them contemporary and relevant to the 21st century. It is said that the world must learn to work together, or finally it will not work at all. Trust, coherence, congruency, and audacity will be the hallmark of these transformative changes. Thank you very much for this opportunity to share some of my thoughts with you.
I take this opportunity to thank Shri N.K. Singh for a very thoughtful address. I would also like to take this opportunity to congratulate all the students who have won the PhD, the MPhil, and the MSc in economics degrees. I take this opportunity to thank the entire faculty and staff of the IGIDR for having successfully organized this convocation, the 18th convocation, which is being held today. And I was fortunate to participate in this. This is the second convocation in which I am participating in the physical mode. In between, I think I participated in the virtual mode. So I would now like to declare the convocation closed. Thank you.
Kindly stand for the national anthem.
पंजाब सिंध गुजरात विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तब शुभ नाम जागे तब शुभ आशीष मांगे गाए तब जय गाथा जय जय मंगल जय भारत माता जय जय जय
Requesting everyone to be seated till the time the dignitaries on the dais, the faculty and the graduating students leave the hall.